say they dedicated, I don't see the dedication. They wanna say they dedicated, I don't see the dedication. These niggas say they dedicated, I don't see the dedication. They wanna say they dedicated, I don't see the dedication now.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JH. If you are new to the channel, if you are a current subscriber, if you watch me regularly, I implore you to continue to watch. It doesn't mean subscribe. I implore you to continue to watch. What is happening is individuals that have watched me from last year, this year, the year before, they have issues and they come back on, and a lot of people have my phone number and they're reaching out to me and they're asking me basic questions. So it's important that you continue to watch, because I try to give you guys the most up-to-date information as I get it. Now, with that being said, let me tell you, I won't even tell you why, but let me talk to the people that are about to come into the post office. Let me talk to the people that are in the post office already about certain things that may have occurred, may be occurring, and how this may affect you, and what I did, and the experience that I had, and my thought process. This will definitely help a lot of people. I said that word, help. It will definitely inform a lot of people. What are we talking about? 2014, I believe, 2014 or 2015. I decided that I was going to leave the post office. I was done with the bullshit. I was done with the toxic people. I was done with the environment. I was done with the managers. I was done with the foolery. Wasn't getting enough pay. Everything that a lot of people have experienced, are experiencing, or may experience in the future. My mindset was to try to find something else that was going to pay me and basically take care of my bills. I found another place, and the grass always isn't greener on the other side. I did get paid a little bit more, but I also realized the environment was just as toxic. The people were toxic. I had didn't have a bunch of bad managers. I had a bad manager, and the hours, they sucked as well. It just happens to be that because I'm a truck driver, I didn't really have options. Find a place that pays the most, you got the worst hours. Other people can identify. Fast forward a couple years later, I ended up going back to the post office. No seniority. Started off back as a PSE truck driver. PSE. Okay? PSE truck driver. Took a long time. When I was working as a PSE when I came back, I was barely getting 30 hours a week. Barely getting 30 hours a week. It was 6-hour days, sometimes 5-hour days. People were, it sucked, because I was like, man, I was just making all this money. Now all of a sudden, I'm not making any money anymore. And I didn't know what to do at that point. I did go, and as you guys saw in one of my other videos, I did go and apply for that BMG money loan, and that did help me get through, temporary hard times, and also help my credit. Then I went through that divorce. It was just a lot of things that just compacted on me. My mind at that time wasn't as focused as it is now. So because I have a younger audience and people that are new to the post office, you have to understand you're not alone. You're not going through this by yourself. I did mention in another video that we shouldn't even be living off of overtime. Overtime comes is great. If you're constantly getting overtime, that's great. But we shouldn't be basing our whole life off of this overtime. We should just kind of, set yourself a budget. Nonetheless, let's continue. Let's continue. My mind said initially that I was gonna make that power move because I needed that money at that moment. I needed to get away from this solid place with all the foolery, the hours, the environment, the toxic people, to try to find something else. Now, why am I talking about this? Because I see a bunch of other videos, and you can feel free to go look for people that used to work for the post office that have switched to other careers or crafts or whatever it is. Not crafts, but other careers, left. Some of them DoorDash, some of them went to FedEx, some of them, I don't know what some of them are doing, but a lot of them bash the post office. But I also read their comments and I say, okay, well, what are they doing now? And some of them come back to the post office, and then other ones, they won't even respond, which leads me to say, hey, either they're not doing as well as they anticipated, or they just choose not to speak. So that's just my assumption. What I've noticed is that people tend to sacrifice the long term for the short term. They tend to live in the moment, myself included. I didn't look and say, okay, well, at the end goal, things were going to be better. And this is where people that are struggling right now with the post office, people are struggling with the managers, people are struggling with their hours, people struggling with the stress, people struggling with the toxic employees that you have to work with. You have to understand, the price of sacrificing the future is always higher than sacrificing the present. Very important. When you sacrifice your future and you live in the today, the right now, the I need this right this second, what happens when it does come to the future? Now, if you don't care anything about what your future looks like and when you retire, then you should probably just shut the video off, which a lot of people tend to do. But if you thinking about, well, I'm gonna go work for FedEx. Well, I spoke to a FedEx driver yesterday, 2 days ago, and he was unloading right next to us. And I said, what are your hours, man? And he was like, oh, we work about 10 to 12 hours a day. I come in at 9. I usually get off about, anywhere between 7 and 8 o'clock. Delivery driver. And he was backed up to the dock. I said, oh, okay. Is that a common thing? He said, yeah, pretty much all of us do. We get our overtime after 8 hours. I said, oh, all right. And then, we turned around and said, but my 401k is going to be really good. And I said, oh, all right. I said, your 401k versus our pension, what is your opinion? And we got back and forth. And then I had to look up what the differences were. And we'll get into that in a second. But again, so when people decide that they want to go and work for another delivery style company or another company that has, warehousing, you have to understand it's pretty much the same thing. But with us, we have those long-term finishing goals set up when you finally hit career. You have to understand, when you work and you get a 401k, which a lot of people, they don't even have that yet, that are watching me. If you get your 401k, you realize that you're only going to get paid about, I think it's 4%. 4% per year. 4% per year of what you have saved. Now, if you only have a couple 100,000, which I believe it was maybe about a week ago, doing my research, half of the people only have about, well, not half, more than half of the people only have about uh, close to $200,000 saved up in their pension. I mean, in their 401ks. And you think 4% of 200,000 paid out throughout the year, you might get $400 a week. I think it's less than $1,600 or $1,700 a month to live, barely, versus the pension. And if people don't know, when you work for a pension, the company essentially continues to pay you until you die. It's a paycheck until you die. The younger people that are watching should obviously start investing when they become career into your pension, because there's people that have pensions that are over $1 million. I'm nowhere near that, but just imagine, and they take a certain amount of what you made and then they start to average it out, and then they continue to pay you a paycheck as if you were working there, coupled with your Social Security. Hopefully we have that, coupled with your other retirement funds that we have, so you can live a comfortable life. That's where I go with the whole concept of the sacrificing the long term for the short term. Don't sacrifice your long term for the short term. Don't make those same mistakes that Jay made, leaving because it was too overwhelming for me, thinking it was going to be better on the other side. Myself, I watched one of my son that used to work at the post office. You know, he's grinding. He went into his MMA, and he's working. He's doing something else right now, and he does have some type of retirement. But you know, I always look at it and say, man, you know, if you would have kept on, this is where you would have been. It's not for me to teach anybody anything. It's not to anybody teach anybody about their money. But at the end of the day, where he would be at this moment versus where he's at this moment, basically starting over, you know, 3 years of saving, still 3 years of savings, is kind of out the window. So before anybody says to you, or you say to yourself that this place is not, you cannot do it, or you're going through those hard money times because it's slow at the job, understand, I made those mistakes for you. I think 1 year, man, I didn't make too much for like 2 or 3 years straight. I was struggling. Telling you, that little BMG money thing helped a lot, because as I grew, I learned, and my mind always said that I was gonna live for the moment and try to continue striving versus setting up a game plan on how I was going to continue for the future. Now, I'm far from financially independent. I still worry about certain things on a regular basis. But one of my older videos, I always say, put that thing on auto pay. That means where you get to that mindset, and where you get to that bank account where you can actually start paying your bills on auto pay, and not have to worry whether or not it's going to clear. You got your electric bill, you know what, it's only $100 or whatever it is, and you can just make sure that it's on auto pay, so you're not worried about how to pay certain bills anymore. Think about that long term. It may not happen today, it may not happen next week, it may not happen 2 years. It will happen though. It will happen. I don't sell this place because I like the place. I sell this place because of the independence that it will give each and every one of us if you stick through it. But Jay, what about those miserable employees you work with? Sometimes you got to remember, if there is darkness in a room and one glimmer of light, you will always see the glimmer of light in darkness. Maybe you can be that glimmer of light to bring darkness, to clear the darkness out of where you're located. Don't feel as if that stress is too much for you. Look at it as just another obstacle that was put in your way towards your quest to being able to take those vacations to Dubai, to Tokyo, Japan. I still want to go to Tokyo. Anybody want to sponsor me? Tokyo, Japan. To go visit, to see the world. This world, big place. How much of the world have you seen? Look at your age right now. Just know that in 5 years, you will have enough put aside, enough set up, or be in a better place where you can actually afford a vacation just to go to Hawaii, just to go to Jamaica. And that's not an expensive place, but just to go visit someplace else. Go see England. Go see England. France, Paris. You should be in a better place, but that's only if you stop sacrificing the long term for the short term. 5 years, easily. Right now, don't seem like there's no light at the end of that tunnel. Make it happen. Somebody needed to hear this. And understand, I'm not telling you because I think it could happen. I'm telling you because it did happen. And I made your same mistakes, which is why I created this channel, so you don't make the same mistakes I made, providing information. Whether you want it or not, whether you need it or don't, it's there. It's a matter of you picking up that little phone and listening to a voice while you're using a toilet. That's a shitty sound. While you're cooking, anything. But just hear it. Listen. Didn't hear it the first time? Listen again. Because eventually you'll understand. I don't make this up. This is JH with a smidget of information. We out.